Imagine walking into a bank in 1965. You hand the teller a $20 bill. It represented physical gold sitting in Fort Knox. For nearly a century, the world followed a simple rule. You couldn't just print money out of thin air. You needed gold to back every dollar. But on August 15, 1971, the anchor was cut. President Richard Nixon changed the course of history in 20 minutes. He didn't just change the law, he changed the very definition of value for the entire world. That's why a house that cost $25,000 in 1970 now costs $400,000 today. It wasn't bad luck, it was a choice. This is the story of the Nixon shock, the day your money changed forever. To understand the shock, we have to go back to the weekend of August 13, 1971. While the American public was enjoying their summer Friday, a group of the world's most powerful men was secretly flying to Camp David. They weren't there for a vacation. They were there because the US dollar was under attack. Under the Bretton Woods system established after WE2, the US dollar was the world's reserve currency, and it was pegged to gold at $35 per ounce. Other countries could trade their excess dollars back to the US for actual gold. But there was a problem. The US had been spending massive amounts of money on the Vietnam War and the Great Society social programs. To pay for it, the US printed more dollars than they had gold to back up. Foreign nations, led by France, smelled blood in the water. They realized the US was naked. They started demanding their gold back. In 1971, a British representative reportedly asked to exchange $3 billion for gold. The US gold reserves were plummeting. If they didn't act, the vaults at Fort Knox would be empty within weeks. Nixon had two choices: stop spending money he didn't have, or change the rules of the game. At 9:00 p.m. on Sunday, Nixon preempted the popular TV shows of the night. Most Americans thought he was going to talk about the war. Instead, he dropped a financial bombshell. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold. He used the word temporarily. That was 55 years ago. It never went back. In that moment, the US dollar became a fiat currency. The word fiat is Latin for by decree. Essentially, the dollar was now valuable only because the government said it was. It was backed by nothing but faith and credit. Wall Street loved it. The next day, the stock market had its biggest one-day gain in history. But for the average person on Main Street, a timer had been started, a timer on the value of their labor. Let's look at the cold, hard facts. If you look at a chart of the American economy, almost every major problem begins at a sharp elbow in 1971. Economists call this WTF happened in 1971. Fact number one, the explosion of debt. When money is backed by gold, the government is limited in how much it can borrow. After 1971, those limits vanished. In 1971, the US national debt was roughly $400 billion. Today, it's over $34 trillion. Fact number two, the death of the single-income family. Before 1971, wages grew alongside the economy. Since 1971, productivity has continued to climb, but real wages for the average worker have stayed almost flat. Why? Because the new money being printed enters the top of the economy before it ever trickles down to your paycheck. Fact number three, the cost of living. In 1971, a new car cost about $3,500. A gallon of gas was 36 cents. Because the dollar is no longer tied to a physical object, the government can print more whenever they want. This devalues every dollar already in your pocket. This isn't just prices going up, it is the value of your money going down. For our audience who remembers the 70s and 80s, you lived through the Great Inflation. You remember 15% interest rates, but there is a deeper, more psychological effect of the 1971 shock. It turned us from a nation of savers into a nation of gamblers. Think about it. Your parents could put money in a savings account, leave it there for 30 years, and it would still buy a house. Today, if you put $100,000 in a safe and open it in 20 years, it might only buy you a used car. We are forced to invest in the stock market or real estate just to keep our heads above water. We are running a race against a printing press that never sleeps. Richard Nixon intended the gold shock to be a temporary fix for a struggling economy. Instead, he created a new world order, one where debt is infinite and the golden age of stability is a distant memory. To the generation that lived through this transition, you aren't imagining it. The world did get more expensive, the rules did change, and the contract that was signed in your childhood was torn up on a Sunday night in 1971. The question now is, in a world of paper and digital numbers, what is real value anymore? If you found this deep dive helpful, hit the subscribe button for Native Nerve. We don't just tell stories, we uncover the facts they forgot to teach us in school.